It is an honor to be here. It's an honor to be able to come back, and for an exhibit like this, how special it is. I want you to know I knew most of those ladies, not quite all, but this is a formidable group of women. Let me tell you, they were strong, they were intelligent, they were horsewomen, and they also were ladies and had a great deal of class and elegance. I knew Harriet Peckham pretty well, and she was my icon. Oh my goodness, she was a legend. And I was so privileged to be able to get to know her back in those years, and her horses, and to see her operation and how she did things, how special it was. For me, I was born loving horses, I think. It was just something that was instinctive in me, as I'll bet for at least half the people in this room, you were born loving horses. And so I rode from the time I was 4 years old. I was born in Michigan. We moved to California. Eventually, we buy a ranch north of Los Angeles up in the mountains, and I got my first horse. His name was Peanuts. A few years later, I got my first registered quarter horse, Calamity John. Oh, he was beautiful. He was sure-footed. He took me into the mountains around our ranch, into places I never should have gone, and never missed a step. He took care of me. That's what our horses do. And then there was the neighbor down the street that had the mare in foal to go, man, go, and then we were in the racing world, completely by accident. And as years went by and we bought more mares and really became very invested in the racing game, I'm a teenager. I'm still going to school. And so my mother kind of took over the operation, and my dad got involved with the associations because my dad knew how important it was. So the first rule that I learned about all of this is that decisions are made by those who show up. And that's true today. So if you want changes made in your organization, if you want to do something for your organization, you have to come. Come to the conventions, come to the meetings, get involved. And AQHA has more opportunities than any other organization I've ever been involved with. And so I showed up. And I made that statement to a dear friend of mine who lives in Boise, Idaho, a few years ago, and just made that little statement. I just happened to say it a lot. Decisions are made by those who showed up. And she started going to her local meetings and ended up being president of the Quarter Horse Association out there in Boise. So it does work. Well, then my father got involved with AQHA and became a director, because you see, in those days, out of 175 directors, 2 were women. 2. And they were big, powerful ranch owners. They were important women. The chances of my becoming a woman director of AQHA, not good at all. But that didn't stop my father. So he got on the research committee, and he came to the meetings, and he began to introduce me. He sent me over to Europe on behalf of the research committee to find out what was going on in England, Ireland, and Scotland, and France, and I brought home all the information on prostaglandins, which at that time was brand new. And all of a sudden, they were beginning to pay attention. And Dad slowly stepped out of the picture and said, "Put my daughter on the research committee." A woman on the research committee? But they did for 15 years. And at one point in time, I woke up one day and they told me I was the vice chairman. I thought, what? And then they voted me in as chair. And all of a sudden, then Dad got off as a director altogether, and I was able to go into the door. So yes, I had help, but once I was in that door, it was up to me. And all I cared about was doing the best possible job that I could do for AQHA, help in any way I could. I wasn't interested in becoming president. That never occurred to me, really, not in those early years. I just wanted to help. And that's the best way to do it, because you know what? Everybody, there's always somebody older and younger, and smarter and less so, and richer and poorer, and prettier and not so. There are all of those things for every person in this room. Forget all that and do the best you can, because there are those of us who will appreciate it. And the American Quarter Horse Association has more wonderful people and a wonderful organization than I can ever possibly tell you. And it's this organization that offers us the opportunity to then go back out into the world, in other situations, in other clubs, in other organizations, And we know what a good organization should be like. We have a process here of leadership, and it's a good one. Because let me tell you, as much as you think you know about AQHA, you don't know about being on the executive committee till that first day. You walk in that first meeting, and all of a sudden, here are 4 other people and executive committee directors and so on talking about all of the things that AQHA does. And that's what happened to me as I walked into that room and realized this world I'd been living all these years, I really didn't know. And from that point on, I wasn't racing. I was AQHA. You represent everybody then. You represent the show people, you represent the cutters, you represent the ranchers, you represent all of them, because that's your job when you're president. When you go back off, you can represent just racing again, but while you're there, you represent everybody. And one of the two important things you do, you listen to the people, you listen to what they have to say, because a lot of times they just want somebody to tell what their situation is, what their problem is, what their great horse is. So you listen, and the next thing is you care, because when you care, they know it. They can feel it, and then they know that you're a part of them, and they feel like they have something in common with all of you. It's all together, and we do that so much better than anybody else. The system works, because let me tell you, it takes 4 years to be president. It takes the time to learn it all, to feel it all. And those 4 people who are up there and have been in there a year before you, 2, 3, and 4, they can guide you. They can show you how it goes in the ropes. And then we have wonderful staff like Craig, like Jackie was, like Betty was. I remember Betty in those early years, who always took care of me no matter what. When you have that staff there, of the quality of our staff, they can do all of the work and know all of the ins and outs of the situations that we can't possibly know as those of us who volunteer for these jobs. And I want you to know that when you're sitting in those offices, those 5 people sitting around that desk with hearings, with problems, with issues, all as volunteers, they care about the horse and they care about you, the people. And remember that when sometimes you're unhappy with what goes on, because we really are all in this together. I want you to know, with Sandy, where are you, Sandy? She's the president now. She's our 3rd woman president. I was the 1st. She's the 3rd. She's not the last. I want you to know what a privilege it has been for me, and I just want to say thank you. I'll always love the AQHA. Thank you.
What was the biggest thing you learned when you were watching him go to these meetings? Because I know as a child, I was always studying my dad to see how did he handle these situations.
My father was the president of the Hughes Aircraft Company. So he managed at one point in time 40,000 employees. He was a very fine manager, a very decent man, and a very wise man. And he had a little sign that he kept on his desk that he quoted from Samuel Johnson that said, "Chance favors the prepared mind." In other words, you make your own luck. And it's your responsibility to be prepared and to learn as best you can. And so he had an instinctive curiosity about anything and everything. And I think the day that I knew just how fine, how great a man my father was, I was 16 years old. My dad took me down to California State Polytechnic College, where I was going to major in animal science, which at that time women didn't do that either. But we got down there and we're going through the college campus, we're going through the horse production areas and the swine production areas and so on. We went into the meat lab. And the director of the meat lab, he's in his white lab coat, and it's, you know, they do the meat there, they cut it up, and it's on these big risers and everything. Here's my dad, the president of Hughes Aircraft Company. My dad went to that man, and he asked him exactly how everything worked, exactly what was this, what was that. He made this man feel important. And that's what my father did so well. He said, be able to walk with kings, yet keep the common touch.